All right, what's up, you guys? We'll be live here. Welcome back to VinceDao Live. We'll be live here in just a few minutes. Let me just start this countdown, go live on Instagram, get people on this stream, and we'll get started here, okay? So don't go anywhere. We'll get started very soon. Let me just start the countdown, and you read the title right. Actually, I put the wrong banner on this. Hold on. I got to fix the banner. It's always something, always something. There we go. That's the banner. Okay, you read the title right. We're going to be talking about gun control tonight for the whole hour. It's going to be fun. Don't go anywhere. All right, see you guys in a second.
Tens of thousands on my right, thousands by my side. War between good and evil, watching our fists collide. Battle for our freedom now, to the streets we ride. Flags waving all around, pages full of pride. This is where we make a stand, no more give or take. March around the Capitol, storm the city gates. Putting pressure on their necks until the truth breaks. All walls of corruption, take out all the snakes. Star Spangled Banner, got it playing loud and proud. People from all walks of life filling up the crowd. Defend the Constitution.
Why did this bump that through?
All citizens, white, red, brown, or black. Return her to a form of glory, fix their bloody crack on the crown. Fetch a gown, it's going down.
Folks, this is exciting. I was literally just walking around Capitol Hill today and I managed to bump into Nancy Pelosi. Speaker Pelosi, so you promised $2,000 stimulus checks if Democrats won the Georgia Senate runoff. So why have you not backtracked on that promise? Can we get an answer, Mrs. Pelosi? Nope, I guess not. It looks like Pelosi is dodging questions from the press, but let's keep circling around here. So over here, guys, it looks like I've stumbled into a meeting of top congressional Democrats. I believe they're discussing this year's budget.
Freedom, cause the fallen troops pay for this. I love this country, doesn't matter how much hate I get. I take my colors in the battle, ain't no wavering. Cause this is for my warriors who marching to cadences. This is for the sisters working hard on the ship. This is for the brothers getting young.
I didn't vote for more foreign wars because you did vote for more foreign wars, and you sort of knew that you were voting for more foreign wars. So why did you vote for him? It's going to be a giant I told you so for me and a lot of other conservatives. Left troops out in the cold, turned their backs on you. I was told to just protect them, then you fold. But on day one, that's pretty bold. You go and make us wear a mask. You say it's not too much to ask, but then you don't wear a mask. Your own rules too much a task. I'm saying Biden's hiding, Biden's frightened, Biden keeping us divided. Biden sickness heightens and Kamala's grip on power tightens. This ain't unity, this ain't for you and me. This is hurt and break things with total impunity. You want a clean slate from the past, but ain't nothing changed with you. You still America last, and you showed it pretty fast. So don't no one listen. You a pretty big ass, and your VP ain't cool, cause she has a little sass. The news live in a fantasy while you giving amnesty, but you ain't got a fan in me, cause I care for our people. See, yes, I said our people, not illegals at Home Depot, cause some children pretty feeble. So why are we the world's weasel? Yeah, it's about power. Elites in their ivory towers. American voters are too sour. Drown them out by the hour with illegals for the power. You don't care, you a coward. Yeah, illegals for the power, illegals for the coward. Yeah, hella sedentary, incompetent per secretary. Wish you could be like Barry, but at least her legs are hairy. That don't make no sense. Nah, you don't make no sense. Liberal cities full of tents. Migrants wanna hop the fence. Yeah, people losing jobs, people chased by all the mobs, people in garages for the ops, people falling in the slobs. Yeah, this is Joe's America. This is what he plans for ya. Now we back in Paris. Now we gon' perish. Yeah. Hey, I can't say I didn't tell you. I can't say I didn't warn you, cause I did. Look. Okay, there we go. And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to VinceDao Live, guys. Let's just get started here, folks. You guys read the title. You guys basically know what the stream is. By the way, this is going to be a shorter stream. I have to leave somewhere, do something for school at like 7 my time. I'm in Pacific time. So we're going to only stream for like an hour tonight, guys. But don't worry, it's going to be a pretty good, pretty base, pretty epic hour. Okay? So let's just get into this. Don't worry about it. Let's just get started, okay, folks? Because we all know the story here. We all have seen this happen so many times before, to where it really shouldn't be a surprise to like a single soul on this planet, right? A mass shooting happens. It's a massive tragedy. By the way, guys, let me know if my connection is good, guys. Okay, because that's happens sometimes. But let me know if my connection's good. If I'm lagging or anything, I shouldn't be. It should be fine. But Mario, I'll get to your super chat in a little bit, okay? But anyways, we all know the story here. We've seen it a million times before. A mass shooting happens, and instead of letting the victims mourn for like 2 freaking seconds, the left has to immediately make this into a political argument for gun control, and specifically for the AR-15, mainly because it appears that there was actually an AR-15 used in the shooting in Boulder, Colorado, which is like, okay, that's the gun that was used. Now, they also made a pretty big deal out of that mass shooting in Atlanta. And if you remember correctly, in Atlanta, actually, you probably didn't even know this. Okay, you probably had to. I just Googled this and I found it out. In Atlanta, the shooter used a handgun. Okay, but of course that wasn't very convenient for the political narrative. So of course they had to make it. They single this stuff out. Okay, so that's all. That's the point I was trying to make. But with that being said, we all know how this goes, and I know ideally it's like we would prefer to just be the ones who just sit there and just let the victims mourn. And, you know, it's just okay. Like, let's just back off with our politics for 2 seconds. But the thing is, they always get immediately started with it. Okay, they always get immediately started. Sergio says he hasn't heard Democrats talk about the Boulder shooting. I don't know where you've been, because Biden did a whole freaking press conference specifically about it, talking specifically about gun control. Now, they're not talking specifically about the Boulder shooter, because at first you might have seen on Twitter, they immediately thought he was a white man, found out he was a Middle Eastern, I don't know if it was an immigrant or a refugee, but a Middle Eastern migrant, we'll say, from Syria, okay, from Syria. And, you know, we don't know the true motive. It might have just been mental illness, but if anything, it's not white supremacy that caused the terrorist attack. There are some signs pointing that it may have been a radical Islamic terrorist attack, okay? We don't know that yet. I'm not going to, like, speculate on that. But the second that they saw that was a possibility, they immediately stopped talking about a shooter and are only now talking about the gun. And you have Joe Biden already basically he's talking about doing an executive order on gun control. Probably not going to do that yet. He's probably going to try to get this assault weapons ban passed through the Senate. It's looking like it's just going to be an even worse version of the 1994 ban. And that's all going to rely on Joe Manchin, right? It could all actually, I wouldn't even say that, because I would guess that Joe Manchin would actually probably vote no on an assault weapons ban, because he comes from West Virginia, right? Very rural state, gun-friendly state. He prides himself as a working-class Democrat. I'm actually very surprised if Joe Manchin voted for an assault weapons ban. I'm actually more worried, not about Joe Manchin, but about people like Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski, okay? Like the Republicans, those rhino Republicans. I'm actually a little bit more scared. I just feel like I just have that little intuition that they would be the type of people to vote in for an assault weapons ban. But listen, guys. We don't know if this is going to pass. We don't know if it's going to be done through executive order, whatever it is. But this is very important, okay? For all of my people out there who live in red states, okay, all of my red Republican state Americans, and you guys might have seen the IGTV video I did yesterday, but I'm going to say it again because it's that important, okay? You need to call your state legislator, so your state rep, your state senator, and your governor, and even your sheriff, and tell them right now that they need to be ready to nullify the Joe Biden gun control plan. For people who don't know what nullification is, and don't remember that from Murkowski is from Alaska. I'd be shocked if she voted for a ban. I know, but dude, it's Murkowski. Like, that's the only reason I'm worried. It's freaking Murkowski, okay? The same woman who voted for transgenders in sports when Joe Manchin himself voted against it. So like, it worries me. Okay, it worries me. You can never trust Murkowski. She just does whatever the hell she wants. But okay, seriously, if you live in a red state, call your state reps right now and tell them to be ready to nullify the Joe Biden gun control plan. If you don't know what nullification is, you don't remember that from U.S. history class or whatever, that's basically when a state or local government decides that a law passed by the federal government is unconstitutional and hence decides to basically strike it down, refuse to enforce it, right? Override it in essence, right? And technically the supremacy clause does say that, the federal law reigns supreme, but there's also the question of what if the federal law itself is not constitutional? Then what reigns supreme? But ultimately, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whatever that debate is in my eyes, because the reality of the situation is this. The federal government needs us, right? They need state and local governments to be able to enforce most of their own laws, right? The federal government does have like the FBI and the ATF, but they are used on sort of a minimal basis when you look at the grand scheme of things. For the most part, who enforces the federal laws of the federal government? Is it the federal government, or is it the local police, sometimes the state government, but mostly it's like the local PD. Like that's who does most of the job of actually enforcing the laws of the federal government. And so what happens when local and state governments decide that they will not enforce the laws of the federal government? Well, the federal government really doesn't have much they can do. And if you're looking for you're kind of like not catching what I'm talking about. I'm basically saying you create a sanctuary state for guns. It's the same concept of nullification, okay? You just strike down a bill passed by the federal government, okay? And the federal government can, right? They could technically decide, let's send in the feds, right? They send in the feds, send in the ATF, the DHS, the military to try to override a state's gun control plan, refusal to enforce the assault weapons ban or whatever it is. But do you really think the federal government's going to do that? Like, honestly, ask yourself that. Do you really think so? And maybe the answer is yes. But we all know that if the federal government ever decided to actually go through with nullification, they would run into a bunch of problems of their own, okay? If they sent in the military to red states to try to enforce gun control, that would not end well for the federal government. And in Minecraft, of course, okay? Figuratively speaking, metaphorically speaking, it would not end well for them, okay? And I'll let you decide like what the actual consequences of that may be. But the reason I'm talking about this is because we can't trust Manchin or Susan Collins or whoever the hell it is, okay? We can't even trust the courts, right? The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals today ruled that there's no such thing as constitutional carry, that you don't have a right to carry your own firearm with you out in public. And we've all seen how the Supreme Court is doing, so we really can't trust those people either. And I'm sure the NRA and all these gun groups are going to sue if the assault weapons ban passes, but don't trust them, okay? Ultimately, it may down to the point where the only way to stop the Biden gun control plan is by states nullifying it, okay? And that's what you need to do. And that's why I'm saying if you live in a Republican state, call your state rep, call your governor, state senator, sheriff's office right now. Don't wait, like do it like this week, okay? Because we need to be putting the ideas in their heads right now that like, you need to nullify this, and if you don't nullify this, then you're not getting reelected because you elected these people. If you live in a Republican area, obviously, like, yeah, if you live in a Democrat area, they're not going to do it anyway, waste of time. But if you live in a Republican area, you need to be clear with them that you elected XYZ politician. I elected you to stand for the Second Amendment and protect my Second Amendment. Protecting my Second Amendment does not just mean, no new gun control laws at the state level. It also means protect me from the federal government, okay? Like, nullification is a pretty bold thing to do, okay? It's, and if one or two states does it, it might not end well for those one or two states. Not that the federal government's actually going to go in there, but that the federal government might try to set a mandate where they basically try to pull funding or whatever from one or two states. Like if Montana and Wyoming just do it, the federal government might just say, okay, no more federal funding to Wyoming until you stop nullifying us. And they might just have to give in. That's why we need every single state with a Republican governor, Republican state legislature, which is like half of America, basically. We need all of the Republican states like dominoes to fall. Every single Republican state nullifies this, okay? And some people might say, they might look at that map and they might hear the Yellow Rose of Texas playing in their head and they might think, oh, that's the preliminary map for secession. Okay, sure, go ahead. If that's how you want to basically spin this so that you can LARP, go ahead. But seriously, you need to get it in your head right now. Get it in the head of your state legislator and your governor and all these people, all these Republicans that you supposedly elected to stand for your Second Amendment. Get it in their head. Give them the balls they need to stand up to the federal government. And again, it can't just be one or two individuals, okay? Like if you just decide to start a black market or whatever for ARs with a pistol grip on them and the 30-round mags or whatever, okay? Not condemning that, but you're at the mercy of the ATF, right? The feds can easily just track you down, okay? And even if you're like, I'm gonna stand here and fight, they'll get you eventually, okay? That's why we need states, we need governors, we need entire states to be on our side in this, okay? And quite frankly, it is pointless to elect supposedly pro-Second Amendment people if they're not even going to stand with you on this, okay? So again, nullification, get it in your head and get in the head of your state governments. Anyways, with that being said, that's really the only way you can assuredly stop the Biden gun control plan is at the state level. Don't enforce it. Lolberts are 100% right about the ATF. Absolutely. Don't enforce it. Anyways, with that being said, let's get into this. Okay. Let's get into the arguments that you probably hear from a lot of Emily's and your moms demand action and all those people in favor of, let's start with banning the AR-15. I did make a video on that yesterday, but I don't think a lot of you guys actually watched it. So let's start with that, because that's what you hear from most people. Is it's like, I support your right to the Second Amendment. I just don't support your right to the AR-15. Okay, like a bunch of bullshit like that. And first of all, if you support my right to the Second Amendment, but you don't support the AR-15, then you don't support the Second Amendment. But people always say this. They're like, give me one reason why you don't need an AR-15, okay? Just defend your home with a handgun. And it's like, first of all, an AR-15 is not the ideal gun I would use for home defense, but it is, if it was a 5.56. Now, if it's converted 9mm, that's a great gun to use for home defense. It's something I'm actually been kind of looking for. But AR-15s are used on a regular basis for home defense. So for people who think that AR-15s are only there to look for who want to throw the government, that's simply not true. Okay, it's a very common gun in America, and many people in America use it for home defense and self-defense. Okay, now here's the reality. Anti-gun people have no idea how guns work. Okay, and that's like that. Okay, whatever. But you have a lot of people in this country, first of all, who don't really have the time or the energy to really become really skilled with a gun, okay? Now, a rifle is pretty easy to learn. You kind of just pick it up and shoot it. But for people who seem to think, oh, just use a handgun, you can tell they never shot before, because it's actually pretty hard to get good at shooting a handgun, at shooting a pistol, okay? I'm personally not even that good at it, and I've been, like, practicing a lot, okay? But it takes a lot of time to get good with a handgun. And there are a lot of people who don't have the time or the money to just go to a range every single week, okay? Like, that gets expensive. All that ammo gets expensive and stuff. And you have people under the age of 18, right? Under the age of 21, sorry, not 18. Because there's a federal handgun limit that you can't purchase a handgun in store until you're at the age of 21. I know some states have nullified it. Okay, so that's good. Baby steps. But for people who are between the ages of 18 and 21, for people who have multiple people breaking into their house a lot of times, right? Because a lot of times it's not just one home invader, it's many home invaders. And for people who simply don't have the time to learn a pistol, which is actually pretty hard to learn, AR-15s are regularly used for self-defense, for home defense, every single year, okay? And while, like I said, personally, the reason why I would not personally use an AR-15 for home defense is I would actually like to, because I'm a really good shot with them. But the reason is just the 5.56, right? The bullet it uses, there's concern that it'll go through walls and, kill your neighbor or something, and that's not something you want, obviously. That's something you get tried for murder for, right? But there are also AR-15s that are converted to 9mm. 9mm is the same type of bullet used in a standard handgun, right? A standard like Glock or whatever. There are AR-15s that are converted to 9mm, and those are pretty ideal weapons for home defense. Now, they don't know what the hell an assault weapon means. They don't know the types of ammo, but I would guess that a ban on AR-15s would also mean a ban on 9mm. And again, that's only for me because I live in like an urban area, right? But for people who live in rural areas, it's not even a concern. Just use the 5.56. It's fine, right? But that's argument number one. Like, there is actually a practical use for the AR-15 other than just, for the boogaloo or whatever the hell, right? Like, the people only think we want AR-15s to overthrow the government. Simply not true. Oh, and here's another one. People who always say, Well, you know, yeah, you can go hunt if you want. I just don't want you to have an AR-15. Well, first of all, there is actually a type of AR-15 that's used for hunting. I forgot what it's called. I saw it on the internet the other day, but there's actually a type of AR-15 that's used for hunting. The anti-gun people might try to get out here and say, well, that AR-15 is okay, but I don't like the regular AR-15 that people use in mass shootings. Well, wait till they find out, folks, that the AR-15 used for hunting actually packs a way bigger bullet. I don't remember exactly what kind of bullet, but it's a way bigger round. It's a way deadlier rifle, actually, for the hunting AR-15 than your regular standard AR-15. So again, these people have no clue what they're talking about. But okay, let's get into the actual arguments that people use as to why an AR-15 is so bad and evil and scary. And it just needs to be banned, guys. It just needs to be banned. Okay, let's get into it. So first of all, people say that they want to ban assault rifles, okay? And they say that the AR-15 is an assault rifle. Now, of course, you can never get a straight answer from these people as to what an assault rifle is. They don't know. They don't know because they actually don't know. Like they're just completely clueless people. That all your anti-gun people are the people who are the most clueless people about guns on the planet. So considering that I could never get a straight answer from these people as to what an assault rifle actually is, I decided to just go ahead myself and Google it. Okay, I Googled the definition of an assault rifle. Check out what I found. And this actually gets into like several different arguments, debunking several different arguments about why the AR-15 is so supposedly big, bad, and scary. But here you go. Okay, this is the Google definition of an assault rifle because we can never get a straight answer out of them. So we just Googled it. Okay. This is from Oxford Dictionary. An assault rifle is a rapid-fire, magazine-fed automatic rifle designed for infantry use. Okay, so let me say that again. Rapid-fire, magazine-fed automatic rifle designed for infantry use. Okay, the AR-15 only checks out one of those three. It is magazine-fed, but a lot of guns in general, handguns and rifles, are magazine-fed, even some shotguns. So that's not, but rapid-fire, automatic rifle, okay? Now, if you know anything about guns, if you're a gun owner yourself, you know that the standard AR-15 that is being used in these shootings and that you buy at a gun store, right? Not saying you can't convert, or not saying you can't get an M16 if you want to pay like $100,000 and go through like 3 years of getting licenses and permits. You can, try to get one that's wasn't grandfathered out by Ronald Reagan, okay, the great pro-gun president. We all know Ronald Reagan, the most pro-gun president ever. Haha, funny joke. But your standard AR-15 is a semi-automatic rifle, right? One trigger pull, boom, one shot, one bullet comes out. By definition, an assault rifle from Oxford Dictionary, since we can never get a definition from them, by definition from Oxford, an assault rifle is an automatic rifle. A rapid-fire automatic rifle. Okay, so that's basically, for people who don't know guns, just think of a machine gun, right? That's basically what we're talking about. You pull the trigger once, and bullets just keep coming out until the magazine runs out of bullets, right? So boom, 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 all through one trigger pull. So that's like, you can think of a machine gun. Okay, but in an AR-15, at least the AR-15s that are legal in the United States and that you can buy in the gun store and stuff, it's one shot, boom, one bullet, okay? Semi-automatic, just like any other modern gun. So same thing with a handgun. If you have a handgun, you have a pistol, modern pistol at least, if you have a muzzle loader, it's a little bit different. But if you have a modern pistol, just say like a Glock or a 1911 or something, boom. One trigger pull, one shot. Same thing with an AR-15. So for people who seem to think, first of all, disqualifies the AR-15 for being an assault rifle. Okay, it is not an assault rifle. Now, there's a different debate about whether or not assault rifles should be legal. But by the definition, and we'll get into that some other time, but as of right now, since we're stuck in this debate, by the definition of an assault rifle, an AR-15 is not an assault rifle. Okay, proving once again that these people have no clue what they're talking about. Okay, have no clue what they're talking about. So there's also this misconception that a lot of people have that they somehow think that the AR-15 basically like shoots at a faster rate than other guns, right? And this ties back into it sort of being an assault rifle or a military grade weapon, as they say, or something like that. And again, wrong. It's semi-automatic, okay? So it fires at the same rate as a pistol or any of the other guns that are wooden looking and don't look scary, okay? One shot, one trigger pull, one shot. So again, however fast it fires is however fast you decide to pull the trigger. As is with a pistol, as is with many of the wooden, not scary looking guns, it's just a semi-automatic rifle. It has nothing special about the fire rate. It's not like an M16 or a military grade AK-47. That's not what we're talking about here. Okay, there's no fire rate that's magically faster or something. Okay, because it's not an assault rifle. And guess what? It's not a military grade weapon either. Because the military carries like M16s, M4s in the combat, but military grade weapons, as given by the definition of assault rifle, guns that militaries around the world carry into battle are usually, they have a semi-automatic function, yes, but usually have an automatic function or a burst function, sometimes both, right? That's why when you see war movies that are made that basically Vietnam War and on, everyone's shooting basically like machine guns, automatic rifles, right? Because that's what the military takes into battle. And again, you cannot really get an automatic rifle in the United States. You can't. The AR-15 that all these people are using are semi-automatic. It is not a military weapon. It is not even a military grade weapon. Now, it is true that the AR-15 in design is based off the M16, but that's really about it, okay? It's just the design, it's just the way it looks, and it's just the way the semi-automatic technology looks. But again, it's semi-automatic, okay? So there's not just this magically faster fire rate or anything like that. Semi-automatic rifle, okay? So there you go. And there's another argument I saw this on CNN yesterday. They're talking about the rifle, and they're basically talking about how AR-15s have deadlier bullets or something like that. They're saying the reason why all these people are dead and not injured is because of the size of the bullet. Okay, let's go through this. So first of all, that's really not true considering the fact that Boulder, 10 people killed with an AR-15. The Atlanta shooting with the salons last week, 8 people killed with a 9mm handgun. So, like, it's not like there's something special about the 5.56, but let's talk about it. So, your standard AR-15 shoots either a 5.56 or a 2.23 round, okay? And pretty decently sized bullet, but in terms of rifle bullets, it's basically somewhere in the middle, right? It's kind of like average size. It is far from the biggest type of bullet you will find out there. As a matter of fact, and as I often say, they're really the only argument they have at the end of the day about the AR-15 is simply that it looks scary. Like, that's it. That's really all it comes down to. I don't know what's so bad about it, but it looks scary, so I think we should ban it. Like, that genuinely is basically their thinking, okay? But you have a lot of guns that don't look so scary that are like made of wood, right? I think it's that black M16 looking structure that they're scared of, right? But you have a lot of guns in the real world. You have a lot of rifles that are wooden, don't look so scary, that actually shoot a far more powerful bullet, okay? And the example we'll use of this, folks, is, wait for it, okay? It's become a meme on this channel. But the example we'll use is the M1 Garand, okay? We'll use the M1 Garand as our example because it's basically become a meme on our streams. I'm like always talking about how much I want a Garand. Okay, but let's do the M1 Garand. Now, for people who don't know guns, Google quick a picture of the M1 Garand just so you can basically see what we're talking about here. Okay, so here you go. This is an M1 Garand. Let me see if I can like dim the brightness or whatever. But there you go. That's an M1 Garand. So notice, it's made of wood. It's a wooden-looking rifle. So notice your standard... Hold on. Wait. Okay, so your standard person who doesn't know much about guns will look at an M1 Garand and think, oh, it's made of wood, not so scary. And I've never really heard any movement to ban the M1 Garand. But the M1 Garand shoots a 30-06, okay? That is way bigger than a 5.56. Way bigger, way more powerful, way punch. And by the way, the M1 Garand also has a way longer barrel. So the bullet tumbles in that barrel for a far longer distance than you have with your standard AR-15, meaning that it also will just come out, generally speaking, with a higher velocity as well, okay? Now, let me show you the difference here. Let's see the difference here real quick. Here's a picture I found. This is actually Thomas Massey. I actually found this on Thomas Massey's Twitter, which is funny. But okay. This right here, right? This thing right here, that's the 5.56 round. So the little one is what the AR-15 shoots. Again, AR-15, scary looking black space age looking gun, right? The other one, the big one, that's the 30-06. That's what the wooden gun, the M1 Garand, the wooden gun that I actually want really badly, by the way. That's what your M1 Garand is shooting. And there are many guns like this. Like, if you guys want to like drop something in the chat that you can think of where you have a wooden looking gun that's not considered an assault rifle that actually shoots a way more powerful round, put it in the comments. But I mean, look, think your standard musket. Okay, what does your standard musket shoot? 58 caliber ball. That thing is, those are things that are pretty massive and pretty way more powerful as compared to your standard 5.56 round. So again, that's not an argument at all. I mean, there are not scary looking guns, wooden guns that hold way more powerful bullets than the AR-15. Trust me, you'd much rather get shot with an M1 with an AR-15. Sorry, you'd much rather get shot with an AR-15 than with an M1 Garand. Okay, and that M1 Garand, that that's not something you want to get shot with. Okay, so there you go. It's not about the bullet. The fire rate is not anything different. It's not a military weapon. It's not an assault weapon. Again, their arguments really ultimately just revolve around how scary it looks. Okay, it just looks scary. That's why they don't like it. But let's go on to another one. It's high capacity magazines. You hear this a lot. High capacity magazines, guys. We got to ban the high capacity magazine, and the AR-15 has a high capacity magazine. Well, first of all, we can have the debate about the magazine, but that has nothing to do with the AR-15. I mean, basically any modern rifle made in the last 50 years, and a lot of pistols too, you can basically stick any size magazine on it, and it basically works. I mean, obviously, like, you have to have some realistic way to build the magazine, but really, you can load like a gun with basically any type of magazine. So you can load an AR-15 with a high capacity magazine or a low capacity magazine. And the same is not true with a Garand because it takes a clip, right? You have to put this clip in. But like most rifles that take magazines, you can just as you want to build it lower, give it room for more bullets. You can put as many bullets ultimately in these things as you want. And so there's nothing special about your standard 30 round AR-15 magazine. It's not like it holds more bullets or something, quote unquote, than like other types of guns. No, it doesn't. It's just about the magazine you put into it. So that's not an argument against AR-15. That's about magazines. And again, it's a 30 round. A lot of different rifles have 30 round magazines. There are some wooden guns that can take bigger than 30 round magazines. Again, there's nothing special about the AR-15. And there are obviously a lot of people out there who just want to ban guns in general, but specifically talking right now to the people who are like I said, oh, I support your Second Amendment. I just don't like the AR-15. Buddy, there's nothing super special about the AR-15, okay? Here's another one. Is that the only argument I have for the AR-15 specifically, there's two left. We'll do this one first. People say that the AR-15, the reason why it's the weapon of choice of all these shooters is because it's easier to use or something like that. Like, anyone can pick up an AR-15 and basically shoot it. Okay, well, in my opinion, rifles are not that hard in general. You pick up a rifle, especially if it has a lens sight on it, okay? Just put the lens sight on, as long as it's an accurate lens sight, as long as it's sighted in. Basically, any rifle you can pick up, and if you kind of know what you're doing and you're not scared of it, you can be pretty accurate with it. Pistols, again, are different because it takes a lot to learn a pistol because, you have such a shorter length of length between you and the barrel. So like any tiny movement will basically jerk the gun up or down. And it's hard to learn a pistol, but most rifles really not that hard to learn. Okay. It's really not that hard. So I don't really see this whole argument, but one thing I will actually say about the AR-15 is that you have to actually be kind of an experienced gun owner to have one in this sense. Okay. So let me say this. There's a reason why around the world, you see all these terrorists and stuff, all these insurgents in like Afghanistan and these chaotic, unstable African nations and all this stuff. Martini Henry rifle, I actually want one of those, okay? Well, I like a lot of old rifles. Martini Henry rifle based. Now, that might not be as easy to learn because I'm assuming they don't really have the best iron sights and it's kind of a little bit older. But, rifles made after World War II that just have decent iron sights or you can just put a lead sight on them. Not the hardest to learn, right? Not the hardest to learn. But anyways, what was I saying? Yeah. There's a reason why terrorists and insurgents around the world don't use the M16 or the M4. Now, obviously, AR-15s are not M16s or M4s, but like I said, they kind of, in terms of parts, right? Not in terms of fire rate, because M16s are automatic and so are the M4s that the military use, right? But in terms of technology, like the parts, the sliding parts and stuff, similar technology, right? American kind of technology, the American rifles. There's a reason why you don't really see these terrorists like these ISIS and this Al-Qaeda people that live in the caves and stuff. There's a reason why you actually see them use the AK-47 more than the M16, and it's not just because the Russians are giving it to them or whatever. It's actually much more practical to fight a guerrilla war when you have an army who is under-equipped, doesn't really know how to clean a gun, I'm sure most of these people, and doesn't really know what they're doing. Because an AK-47 is very rugged, right? You can take it basically anywhere and it works, right? And you can get it super dirty. The thing will still fire and stuff like that. But when you're talking about American rifles, M16, M4, AR-15, right? These guns they're a little bit more accurate than the AK-47 if you know what you're doing, obviously. But you have to take care of them, right? If you don't clean it, it's gonna jam, right? So you have to kind of be a much more actually responsible gun owner to own an AR-15 than an AK-47, and that's the reason why all these terrorists and stuff don't use M16s or ARs or whatever, because they don't know what the hell they're doing. Most of these people are just like random people they recruit from the town and just put the gun in their hand. The better rifle to do with that is the AK-47, because you can get it dirty, you can keep shooting it without cleaning it, and it won't mess up on you or anything. Whereas the AR-15, you got to be more experienced of a gun owner. So, again, that argument doesn't really make a lot of sense, because if you're saying that, oh, the reason why the AR-15 is so bad is because anyone can go pick it up and commit a mass shooting with it, you can go pick up any gun and commit a mass shooting with it. But if you want to talk about, like, easiest type of gun to own, it's not actually an AR. Okay, it would be an AK, right? And if I'm not mistaken, we don't have an AK, but I'm pretty sure an AK also has like less parts, right? It's easier to take apart, easier to clean. American guns are much harder to maintain. It's just some 19-year-old kid who really doesn't know what you're doing with it, you're not gonna have an easy time actually owning the AR-15. So that also not the best argument ever. But last one here is that, well, okay, Vince, you've basically debunked everything about the AR itself, as to why it's not really as big and bad and scary as I seem to think it is. But all I know is I always see it used on TV, okay? Like you hear the Democrats say this. Why wouldn't you want to ban the number one choice of all these mass shooters? Okay, all these mass shooters are using the AR-15. And as you can see, whenever a mass shooter does use an AR-15, they always report that it's an AR-15, and then they always basically try to start this whole liberal movement against an AR-15. And we'll do the anecdote first, and then we'll do the statistics, okay? Anecdotally speaking, yes, Boulder, the guy apparently used an AR-15 or something that looked like an AR-15. Okay. 10 people dead. In Atlanta, the shooting that literally happened last week, the guy used a handgun. Okay. And for people who think that the AR-15 has this magical big killing capacity that other guns don't have, the guy with a handgun killed 8 people. Okay. He didn't shoot 1, 2, or 3, even 4 people. He killed 8 people. That's only 2 shy of the guy with an AR, with a handgun, a 9mm handgun. The thing that people supposedly say they're fine with you owning and stuff. I'm fine with you owning a handgun, just not an AR-15. 8 people. Okay. Yet it was never reported what type of gun the guy used. If you noticed it, I mean, I had to Google it. I had to search pretty extensively to find out what type of gun it was. And then it says, oh, 9mm handgun. Oh, I wonder why they didn't make a whole big movement out of that. Again, the reason why you actually think that AR-15s are being used in like all the mass shootings is only because the media only reports the type of gun that is used when the mass shooting is done with an AR-15. When it's not done with an AR-15, they don't point it out. And I'm going to prove that by showing you this. In general, we all know that handguns are used on the vast majority of shootings in the United States. But let's actually look at mass shootings, because that's what people are talking about. And this is not a statistic that I mentioned like the other day. But here you go. This is from Crime Research, and this other one's from the FBI. But here you go. Weapon types used in mass shootings between 1982 and March 2021 by number of weapons and incidents. Okay. So in this study, which is from Statista, handguns used in 143 mass shootings in this time period that they studied. Rifles, so not just AR-15s, people, but just rifles in general, used in less than half of that. 56 rifles. Okay. Now here's a good chart. This is from Crime Research. That is a good one to look at. So from 1988 to June 2019, handgun-only mass shootings make up 58% of all mass shootings. So again, that's a majority. You have a majority of mass shootings taking place with a handgun. Let's see, how many are rifle only? Obviously, an AR-15 would... Oh, my phone went dark. Okay, hold on. There you go. Oop, there you go. Okay. How many of these are rifle only? 13%. Okay. You see the disparity? Yeah. Okay. And again, you can just see that handguns in general make up the majority, but even if we're looking at AR-15s itself, rifle only 13%. Now, handgun and rifle, 12%. So let's assume that all of the rifles being used are AR-15s, which is obviously not true, but let's assume that every single rifle used in that was AR-15. Okay, so I think it was 12% plus 13%. Yeah, you're at 25%. 25% of all mass shootings take place with a rifle, with an AR-15, quote unquote, but it's really just a rifle. 58% with handguns. Okay, so yeah, you see the AR-15 on TV, it's big and scary, but maybe that's because the media specifically has an agenda against the AR-15. It's actually not true that the AR-15 is the so-called weapon of choice for all the mass shooters out there. Not true. Not true, folks, okay? Simply not true, okay? So again, it really circles back to this. It circles back to this. It looks scary. That's why they don't like it, okay? And ask an anti-gun person. I freaking dare you. Like, ask someone who wants to ban an AR-15. I guarantee you they won't have a clue what they're talking about, because I'm yet to actually meet a person who has any clue about guns that wants to ban guns. It always goes like this, okay? Either number one, they'll really just circle back to it looks scary, or number two, they'll come at you with some type of false premise, i.e. it's an assault rifle, i.e. it's automatic, i.e. it's a military weapon, i.e. it has a bigger bullet, i.e. the bullet tumbles a lot or something. The AR-15 doesn't even have that long of a barrel, okay? Like I said, you saw the grand, you saw that barrel is actually longer and a bigger bullet, okay? Every argument I've heard against the AR-15 specifically. Now, there's a lot of people who just say, oh, let's ban all guns. Stupid, but okay. At least that's consistent or something like that. Every single argument I've heard against the AR-15 specifically is based off of some type of misconception about the gun itself. Like something that's like literally not true. Okay? And if you guys want to drop another argument you've heard about the AR-15 that I didn't mention, specifically about the AR-15 that I didn't mention, you're free to do it in the chat and we can look at that. But that's really every single one that I've heard. And in every single instance, it's just built off of some type of false premise. Okay? Every single time. Again, they want to ban it because it looks scary. It looks like an M16, so that means it must be fully automatic or something. Yeah, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. They don't know what the hell they're talking about, folks. Okay? And one last thing I will mention is that people always say, okay, Vince, fine. I don't know anything about the AR-15. But then what's your solution to stopping this from happening? Because clearly it is not good that this is happening. At least I care. You don't even care about the dead kids. What's your solution to actually stopping the shooting? Okay, folks. Okay. All right. It's called more armed guards, more police, but most importantly, more caring. Okay, constitutional carry. That's the solution to ending mass shootings. Okay. We've already established that, actually, we haven't established it, but let's mention it. There are so many, like a blanket gun ban in the United States. I know people always just say, well, it's common sense. Criminals don't follow laws. That's true. But even for people who are so naive as to think that they can somehow, if you ban the sale of AR-15s tomorrow, somehow that get rid of all the guns, there are way too many guns in the street in America to where if you were to go through with a blanket gun ban, people like to point to Britain and stuff and say it worked. It really didn't, because everyone's just stabbing each other now. But let's just say like, oh, it worked in Europe. It worked in Europe because worked, quote, it really didn't work. People are just stabbing each other now, but it worked, quote unquote, in Europe because people in those cultures just didn't own as many guns in general. But there are like, I think, as many or more guns than people on, like, in civilian hands in the United States. You cannot just ban it tomorrow and expect to get rid of all of that. You just won't. Okay, you just won't. The thing is, there will immediately be a black market for these guns, and it will be so easy to get them on the black market as compared to somewhere like the UK, where there weren't that many in circulation to begin with. There are so many in circulation in the United States that the criminals who want guns will get guns even if you ban them. So with that being established, that criminals will get guns regardless, and not that just be a general talking point like, oh, that's logic, they will be guns regardless, they will get guns regardless, but also specific to the United States, it's specific to American society. That's especially true here as compared to other countries. Given that mass shootings are going to happen anyway, the only answer is to protect yourself and to protect people. Okay, so that means, look, where it happened in Colorado and where it happens in over 90% of all mass shootings, gun-free zone. First of all, I don't know if Colorado is an open carry state. It might be. I kind of think it sounds like it probably would be one, but it's probably not a state where it's normal to open carry. Like, it's not a part of the culture there to begin with, if it even is. It's considering how long Democrats have run the state, wouldn't be surprised if they got rid of open carry and just made you need a permit anyway. But if you want to protect people from mass shootings, you have to stay strapped, okay? And that means if you want to be a gun-free zone, which is kind of stupid, unless you're in an airport or something like that, or a stadium or something like that. But if you want to be a gun-free zone, you got to have armed security, okay? But most importantly, the best way to do it is people got to carry, okay? And people might say, well, Vince, what about Georgia? People weren't carrying there. But again, I'm not just saying that we have to make it easier to carry. I'm also saying that culturally speaking, we have to actually desensitize people to firearms, get them to stop being so scared of firearms so that it actually becomes normal for people to carry, because that's equally important, right? You can be a constitutional carry state, but if it's not normal, if a lot of people aren't carrying, it still might not make a difference. You have to have those people that are caught up in that situation to be carrying, okay? And that's the real solution. Okay, that's the real solution to you got to have, you don't, and I'm defunding the police. All this stuff certainly doesn't help the case. But regardless, you don't even want to wait on police response times. Okay, you don't want to wait on police response times. 5-10 minutes, you could be dead by then. Everyone has got to be carrying. Okay, it needs to be easier for people to carry. I don't think it should take a permit at all. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals can go fuck themselves. Everyone should be Everyone who has a gun should be allowed to carry it, and everyone who is allowed to carry it should carry it. And I'm not advocating for you to break the law. That's up to you. Okay, I'm not saying you should break the law. Okay, and get caught like, oh, hero in California saves people from mass shooter, but now gets arrested because he was illegally concealed carrying his gun. Like, I'm not telling you to break the law, but I am saying that the real solution to this crap is that more people need carrying. Now, is full solution? No, it's certainly not a foolproof solution. Maybe the person who was carrying, the shooter puts them down first. Maybe the person Maybe the person just managed to find somewhere where nobody was carrying and got lucky. But I'm not so naive as to say that you will ever end mass shootings by any solution, conservative solution, liberal solution. But I do strongly believe you could decrease it by concealed carrying. But I'm not so naive as to say that if we just ban guns and said it's illegal to use guns, criminals would stop using guns. It's very stupid. Very stupid. Very low IQ, folks. But anyways, okay. One last thing we wanted to talk about is the amendment itself. Let's see if we can get some text. Let's see if we can get the text of the Second Amendment up here. You hear a lot of liberals. This is the last argument I'll address. You hear this all the time. People say that the Second Amendment does not actually protect your right to own a gun, personally. Okay, so let's see. Second Amendment language. Okay. So you see liberals always use the part where it says a well-regulated militia, and people always say, well, a well-regulated militia means you can regulate the guns. That's not even what they meant by a well-regulated militia first. Okay, by well-regulated, they basically just meant like a strong, organized militia, basically, and that's what they meant. And if you want to say, well, there's no militia, okay, let's go make them then. Let's go freaking make them then. I'm down. Who's down? We'll go make a freaking militia then. If that's what we need to own the guns, then we'll all go join the 3%ers or something, okay? Like, if that's what you're saying is needed to own a gun, that's really not much of an argument, because people can just make militias if that's the case, okay? That doesn't really make sense. But, okay. People say, okay, well, here's the Second Amendment. It reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. Of course. In Minecraft, of course. In Minecraft, of course. That's what I meant. I'm obviously talking about Minecraft. The Second Amendment reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Okay, so people basically say that the Second Amendment, because it has that part in the beginning about a well-regulated militia, they basically try to say that means that the Second Amendment is saying that without a well-regulated militia, the right of the people do not have the right to keep and bear arms. Okay? But when you actually dissect the English language and you actually look at what's being said here, you can tell that these people did not pay attention in school when they were taught all that crap about subordinate and main ordinate clauses, okay? Because let me try to get the text up on the screen here so like you guys can kind of see it. Let me make a banner here real quick. But the main clause in that sentence, what's the other term for a subordinate clause? The dominant clause, ordinate clause? I don't even remember what that's called. But here, hold on, let me just make one. Okay, add banner. Okay, so when you look at this sentence, they always talk what is the main clause in the sentence? What is the sentence saying? And what is the part of the sentence where you could take out the rest of it and it would still be a complete sentence, right? That's the difference between like subordinate clause and, main clause, stuff like that. Okay. The main clause of the sentence, basically the thesis statement in the sentence, is the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That is the part of the sentence that if you were to take out the rest of the sentence, it would still be a complete sentence. So that's how you know it's the main clause of the sentence, okay? A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, that is the subordinate clause. All that clause is doing is explaining the main clause. It's basically giving a justification for the main clause. So it's basically justifying, okay, this is why the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Nowhere in here does it say, if it is so that there is a militia to protect the free state, then and only then shall the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Nowhere does it say that. Again, if you were to take out that initial part of the sentence, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, the main clause would have the same exact meaning. It is not a limiting clause, right? It's not an if or statement or if only. It's not saying if this, if that. It is just simply saying that because a well-regulated militia is necessary to the security of the free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So all that part of the sentence is doing is justifying a reason why you would need, to keep and bear arms. It doesn't change the thesis. It doesn't change the main point, the main clause of the sentence. It doesn't do any of that. It simply explains why. It's all it is an explanation. It's not a limiting. It's not like, okay, it's not an if or statement. It's not trying to regulate the main clause. No pun intended on the well-regulated part, but it's not trying to regulate the main clause. It is simply explaining, giving a reason why, right? Like if you're writing an academic paper, you write your thesis statement, and then you write your evidence or your explanation or your justification for the thesis statement. But that doesn't mean that if you got rid of that evidence, the meaning of the thesis statement would change. All it would be is a less justified, less backed up thesis statement if you took out the evidence. But evidence does not change the meaning of the thesis statement. The thesis statement is still the thesis statement. And that's what's going on here, okay? There's no if in the sentence, there's no if, when, because. Well, there is that's what basically it's saying is because a well-regulated militia is necessary to the security of the free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Not if A well-regulated militia exists for the security of a free state. The right of people to keep bear arms shall not be infringed. That's not what it's saying. It is simply explaining why the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And that's all that it's doing. That's all that it's doing. Okay. So again, they don't. Anyone who tries to say that first part of the sentence changes the meaning of the second part of the sentence, they don't understand the English language. They don't understand the English language. They just don't. Okay, because this is a explanatory clause, not a limiting clause. Okay, the point of the sentence that does not change, regardless of what the reason is, regardless of what the reason for it is, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Okay, so you have the right to keep and bear arms. Now, the reason for that right, as explained, is hopefully to keep a well-regulated militia. But regardless of whether or not that is fully achieved or not, regardless, the point of the sentence is still that the right of a people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So don't let them use this on you. If they're using this on you, they don't understand the English language. They don't understand main clauses and subordinate clauses, or explanatory clauses versus limiting clauses. If they try to use that on you, the well-regulated part. Again, okay, how about every town in America form a militia? I'm fine with that. But, and of course, for defense purposes, for safety purposes. Okay, I'm not saying form a militia to overthrow the government. I'm simply saying form a militia, as like neighborhood watch, basically. That's what I mean when I'm talking about a militia. That's kind of what they mean as well. Although that militia would ultimately exist if it's needed to protect against a tyrannical government. But in this case, it also just exists for just general defense and safety, and if a foreign country invades and stuff like that, which is not so relevant anymore. Okay, but even then, if you were to take out that part of the sentence has the same exact meaning as it does before. They don't understand the English language. Okay, that's the last, basically, argument I wanted to address. And like I said, Mario Diaz, I always say Mario Diaz. It's Mario Diaz. Sorry, my guy. AR-15 should be banned because it's black. That's racist. You're trying to ban black rifles? Come on, man. That's not very optical of you. What's up with that? What's up with you trying to ban? What do you have against black rifles? Okay, you're the racist one. Okay, the people who are saying that AR-15s, not you, Mario. I'm talking about the liberals. The people who want to ban the AR-15, they are actually the racist ones. So I'm good friends with Chandler Crump on live streams. Based epic. All right. This Mario has a very kind of an unoptical question here, but he did send me money for it, so I got to answer it. It says, "What is your political unbiased thought about Johnny Sins?" Okay, personally, I look up to him since he was in the military, a cop, and a doctor. Okay. I'm. You know what? Should I even dignify that with a response, folks? Should I even dignify that with a response? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, of course. But anyways, this person makes a great point. Colorado is one of the stricter states with gun laws. It's true. They've done everything that people wanted. As Marjorie Taylor Greene pointed out the other day, they have all the gun laws in place that the left wants, and still it happened. Right? It happened, and hey, had someone been allowed to carry a gun in that supermarket, things might have turned out a little bit differently, And maybe the shooter would have thought twice if he was in a constitutional carry state, because he might think, oh, if I go into the supermarket, okay, but what if someone's carrying? That's not mass shooters choose soft targets, okay? That's why you don't see mass shooters go shoot up shooting ranges or stuff like that, or even gun stores. They choose soft targets, okay? But besides the movie Terminator, how often have you seen a mass shooter actually target a police station, right? No one's ever going to do that because it's just going to get killed immediately, So again, yeah, basically. Mario says play Roblox. I've not played Roblox since I was in like 5th grade, dude. I don't even remember the controls. What do you even do in Roblox? I know there's all these different mini games and stuff. I don't even know much about Roblox, to be completely honest. But if you keep sending me money, perhaps I will at some point. The Columbine shooting was committed in a gun-free zone with a banned gun. No, exactly, folks, exactly. All right. Anyways, guys, like I said, I gotta cut the stream a little bit short, so we'll go until 10:05 Eastern time, then I'll call it a night. Like I said, I have something I have to do for school. I have to give a freaking presentation for school. So we'll make it up. We'll do a little bit of a longer stream next Wednesday. Don't worry. But we'll wrap it up in a little bit. Let me just read the chat here, and then we'll call it a night. And we'll talk about Britain needs knife control. Yeah, exactly. Britain needs knife control. You should make a video about basically the border. Don't worry. We're working on it. Okay, we're working on it. What I will say about the border right now is that we all know what's really going on here. Okay, the Biden administration wants to. It's so stupid. So they're putting migrants up in hotel rooms. I'm sure you guys have heard about this because apparently the centers are so overwhelmed. So they're putting them up in hotel rooms. Yeah, genius. How do you think that's going to end? Okay. They're literally just going to run away unless they're putting security guards outside the hotel room or something. They're literally just going to run away. Like, how are you going to contain them if they're put up in a freaking hotel room? You're not. And maybe that's the point of it. Like, I think all they want to basically do with this is keep the optics in check. Like, they know it's bad optics, but ultimately they secretly want as many illegals to basically make it into this country as possible, so that a few months from now, when they pass amnesty, they'll have as many voters as possible. That's why they're waiting a little bit on the amnesty, right? They're gonna wait. Watch, I bet you, like at the end, probably right before the midterms. That's when they'll try to push the amnesty bill through. So that way, because they know they're probably gonna lose the House and maybe the Senate, but they're definitely gonna lose the House, so they won't be able to do it. But at least I hope so. You never know how Republicans are on the issue of amnesty. They're just so weak for some reason. But so they're gonna try to just get as many illegals in the country as possible, and then they're gonna try to pass amnesty. And there you go, more Democratic voters. And what I will say is, because Republicans should be trying to win the Hispanic community, and they're actually making pretty big gains with Hispanics, especially South Texas and stuff like that. You see how legal Hispanic citizens feel about this stuff. Okay. They actually probably hate it more than the white suburbanites do. Okay, way more than they do. But legal Hispanic citizens who either immigrated here legally to this country and became citizens that way, or their parents, grandparents, whatever, you should all be the most insulted by this. Okay, the most insulted by people pouring over our southern border, and knowing what Democrats are basically trying to do with it to build more political power, because they are basically saying to you and all of us as Americans, but especially to you, that your place, the place they basically gave you in this country is just we just don't care about it. And basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to drown out your vote and drown out your place in the economy with, quite frankly, not their best. Okay. Quite frankly, they're trying to drown out your place in this American society with a bunch of people who are poorer than you, who are less educated than you, who are far less impressive than you, and most importantly, far less law-abiding than you, okay? And they're I know replacement is kind of an unoptical word to use, but it's true. They're actually trying to replace your spot in this country and in this economy, or at the very least try to drown it out with this entirely new constituency, okay? And that should anger legal Hispanics the most, and of course all legal immigrants and just people, American citizens in general, because all of us who are affected. But I frame it specifically to Hispanics and Hispanic, legal Hispanic immigrants, because you should look at that and be like, what the hell? Like, what the hell is going on here? But anyways, guys, it is 7:05, so real quick, I'm gonna read Margot's question, which is, why is it a building called a building if it's already built? I don't know, guy. I don't know. I think a Democrat probably came up with that word. The term replacement migration is used in UN paperwork. I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is, because there is actually that agenda going on. It's not really a conspiracy theory. It's not a racist conspiracy theory or anything. It's true. That's what they're trying to do with this society. But yeah. Anyways, guys, it is 7:05. I gotta go do a thing for school. But I'll see you guys tomorrow with the podcast on this YouTube channel, and I'll see you guys next Wednesday for another live stream at 6 o'clock Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern time. But until then, guys, remember, alpha moves only. Alpha moves only. No beta moves. And I'll see you guys next time. Have a good night, guys. Peace.